Welcome to this week's edition of the Weightlifting Platform, where kilos are king, except for some of those places that use pounds or stone. The Weightlifting Platform is brought to you by the Panamerican Weightlifting Federation. I'm your host, Richard Mason. On this week's show, he was a promising junior weightlifter in Africa. Then he made a life-changing decision 7 years ago. This month, he becomes an Olympian. You won't believe the journey in between those places. For our tip of the week, people are arriving in Tokyo, what you need to know when you get there early. And for our regular feature, Good to Know, the A to Z of the weightlifting world. But first, here are the headlines. A Chilean athlete caught with marijuana in his system will compete in Tokyo. Arlene Mendez is suspended for 1 month after that test, but that month is over during the Olympics, but before his session, so he will get to compete. Marijuana is a prohibited substance, but recreational drugs have been assigned shorter suspensions as of this year, if out of competition and if not performance enhancing. Mendez successfully argued both points and receives the shortest penalty allowed and will lift in Tokyo. The man many say is Turkey's best weightlifter is facing a suspension after a positive test, according to media in his country. Silver medalist from Rio 2016, Dania Ismailov, is reported to have tested positive in the run-up to his gold medal victory at the European Championships this year. And German public broadcaster ARD is promoting a new documentary expected to air Saturday that will reveal more about doping in the world of international sport. A previous documentary revealed cover-ups in the IWF, which led to the McLaren investigation, the removal of President Dr. Ayan, and increasing pressure from the International Olympic Committee for the removal of weightlifting from the Olympics. And those are today's headlines. Now, good to know. If you look into the IWS database of athletes, you'll find a wide range of names from A to Z. Alphabetically, the first athlete is from India with a listed last name of A space Jane Chowri. Devi placed fourth at the 2011 Asian Championships in the 75 kilo category. Now, if you eliminate the space, you don't think the space counts when it comes to alphabetical. Then the first athlete alphabetically is Borja Adland with 2 A's, A-A-D-L-A-N-D. He was fifth at the University World Cup back in 1998 as a 105. But the last name in weightlifting alphabetically, well, that's Haddad Ziad, Z-Y-A-D, of Switzerland. Haddad placed 14th at the European Juniors in 2019 in the 73 kilo category. From A to Z, that's good to know. Now time to talk. Cyril Chachette II placed second at the African Junior Championships back in 2013. He finished fifth at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow in 2014. But after he lifted in the Scottish city, his life changed forever, and it's a story worth telling. Cyril, welcome to the Weightlifting Platform. First off,
Thank you,
we always
Richard.
ask thank you. We always ask our guests, how did you first get started in the sport of weightlifting?
Oh, thank you, Richard. Thank you for inviting me. So I started weightlifting around 2010, 2009, 2010. So this was after seeing a picture of my cousin's father. So I was taking part in a baptism, and then in a baptism ceremony, and then I saw the picture of my cousin's father on the wall. So it was a very nice and captivating picture. So that is what actually led me into weightlifting.
And was it easy to find a coach, easy to find a gym? How did that work out?
Yes, it was easy. It was easy because I lived in Yaoundé, so we used to have like a weightlifting club about and now I walk from my house. So after seeing that picture, I told my mom that I wanted to do weightlifting. I wanted to do this sport. So she directed me to some of my cousins who were weightlifters. So I kind of started weightlifting with them in a local club in Yaoundé.
Now, was it easy for you at first? Did you have an early indication that you had this talent for the sport?
Um, I mean, I started quite young, so I was like 14. Yeah, you usually start very, very, very light. You start with a stick. They give you like a stick. They show you the technique, and then you gradually move to a bar, and then you start loading it. So, I guess I had a normal, I would say normal progression. I don't know if I was talented or not, but
Okay,
I had to learn all the basics.
that's that's fair. Now, as a young man, you weren't even 20 when you'd already been on the podium at African Junior Championships. And you were still not even 20 when you'd heard the roar of the crowd at the Clyde Auditorium in Glasgow, lifting at the Commonwealth Games. Did you feel at that point that the world had opened up to you, that you were literally on the top of the world?
I mean, I'm sure my answer is gonna be it's gonna be a bit strange, but when I was it, I didn't really enjoy the Commonwealth Games. As an athlete, it's supposed to enjoy a competition of that level. I think I felt quite tense when I think and reflect back on that. My experience there was quite, it was a difficult one. Although I still competed and did quite well, but it wasn't very enjoyable. It was too tense.
Now, that brings us to the next part of this. At the end of the competition, after lifted, at some point you walked away. You left the athletes' village. You left your sport. You left your country behind. In the past, you've been quoted as saying that you did not feel safe returning to Cameroon. Still, it could not have been an easy decision for a young man to make.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the point at that time, I felt that the right thing to do was for me to walk out of the Commonwealth Games village and not return to Cameroon. Um, I've not actually been willing to discuss the reasons why I actually left my team and my country. Um, but yeah, I felt that it was necessary for me to leave at that point.
Now that's fair. Now, what happened next? You're a man who is has no address, no identification, no anything. What happens when that happens? What happens next? What was your life like for the next weeks, months, and beyond?
Oh, my life. It was actually, I'm laughing today, but it was actually a very difficult experience because I ended up being, homeless for one night in the street of Glasgow, and then ended up in Brighton, where I was homeless for about 2 months before eventually, um, I was, you know, before eventually seeking asylum and then taken to a detention center, and then released back into the community, then transferred to Birmingham, where I went back into weightlifting again. But it was a very difficult process. Considering the fact that I was 19, it was quite shocking for me to go through all those experience, I would say.
Now, since then, you've settled in Birmingham. You've gone to university. You've got your bachelor's degree. I understand you're working on your master's now in mental health nursing. Is that experience on the streets of England and that one night in Scotland, do you think that helps you in now your chosen field?
Yes, it did. I think it did hurt because although when I was younger, I thought about working in a hospital, but I didn't really know what role I was going to do in a hospital. And then in Cameroon, when I had my A levels, I was working I mean, I started studying geography, which was completely on the other side. So my motivation to study nursing was actually my because of my own personal experience. Because when whilst waiting for my asylum application to be determined by the authorities in the UK, I went through some. I went through depression, so which I was eventually placed on medication, and then having to see my GP a couple of times a month. Um, so my GP was actually, the person who motivated me, because the way he looked to look after me, the way we had a very informal relationship, and he was very open, and he advised me to exercise, to do, so when I was granted asylum eventually, I then wanted to go back to university, and I felt that it was necessary for me to go to study nursing, and so that I would be able to help other people as well.
How did you get back in sport?
How did I get back in sport? So when I was released from detention, I was transferred in Birmingham, and then from there I was placed in a hostel. So one day I was just, I googled, on my phone, weightlifting club. I think the nearest one was University of Birmingham Weightlifting Club, where I then walked into, and then I saw some guys there training, and one of them took me to a different club, Wale Weightlifting Club in Smethwick, which is where I met my coach back then, Chima. So and then I started training again. So Chima he was very good to me. He gave me the keys of his club. I was able to come in every day and train. I didn't have to pay a penny to train, which was good. So I started training again and competing, even at local level, eventually moving to nationals.
Now, you've competed at national meets in Britain. And again, this is not something that I know a lot about, so you're going to have to help me along. You've got asylum status in Britain. Is there a citizenship status, or is that what leads us to our next question about the refugee status? What is your status in Britain?
So my status in Britain is I'm a refugee. So
Okay.
a refugee has been granted asylum. So I am a refugee. But prior to that, I was an
which leads
asylum seeker.
which leads to our next topic. You're getting to compete at the Olympics in Tokyo on the refugee team. You're the only weightlifter that's been given that status. How did you first become aware that there was an opportunity for a refugee to lift at the event that everybody's talking about what country you're from? And tell me about the moment you found out that you were going to be an Olympian.
So I found out that I was going to be an Olympian. Officially, that was on the 8th of June, 2021, because this list was supposed to be announced in June 2020. So because of COVID and everything got postponed, so we only found out last month on the 8th. But before that, I was obviously I was given a scholarship by the International Olympic Committee. So I was granted a IOC Solidarity Scholarship. I think it was around 2018, 2019. I don't know exactly when. So I was part of a pool of athletes who were among part of a pool of athletes who were going to be selected, to which some of us were going to be selected to take part at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics.
Now, since you walked away, you're not the only one. Others have walked away as well, including some of your teammates at the next Commonwealth Games back in Australia. Given your personal experience with having done that and your professional training and expertise, is there an opportunity, and I don't want to try and direct your career, but is there an opportunity for you to have contact with them to offer your advice and your counsel to others who are in a similar situation?
I mean, I have been in contact with some of my colleagues. We've been in contact, but I haven't actually, offered any professional advice or any advice of any sort, because I don't really know the reasons why they left. So we've just been talking normal conversations. How is it training, and some basic um, things. Um, so I don't really know if I if I am well placed, if I'm a professional to be advising people. But Yes, if my friends come to me for some advice that I'm able to respond, then why not?
Well, I just thought you're perfectly placed for that kind of thing, and you've got the training, and it's, not necessarily Cameroonians, but other athletes who are in similar situations who have left their flag behind and are looking forward to a different new life wherever they're at. Um, that said, enough of the serious talk. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us and tell us your story. Now we're going to do the fun stuff. We're going to put you on the clock next. Now, you've got an amazing story, and we appreciate that. But now we're going to try and get to know you a little better with some fun questions. We're going to do it all in 60 seconds. You're used to the pressure of a 60-second clock, so let's take care of this in 3, 2, 1, ready. England drives on the left, Cameroon drives on the right. Which way is better?
England, I would say. I never drove in Cameroon.
There you go. If you wrote your own autobiography, what would you call the book?
The refugee weightlifter.
There you go. What weightlifting exercise did you miss the least when you were not training? And heavy squats is probably the right answer.
Back squats.
There you go. Who is your favorite author?
Ooh. Not very sure with that one.
Okay. If you were allowed to, last question, if you were allowed to choose the anthem that plays when a refugee wins an Olympic medal, what song would you choose?
Um. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh gosh, sorry.
I'll let you off the hook. These were not supposed to be that hard. My apologies for stumping you. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing your story. And we wish you the best of luck in Tokyo and beyond.
Thank you very much, Richard. Thanks. Bye bye.
Now it's time for the tip of the week. Sofia Gonzalez is with the International Weightlifting Federation's communications team around Tokyo and beyond. Now we turn to her on the ground already in Tokyo for a look at what you should be expecting as you arrive for the games in our tip of the week.
Hello guys from the weightlifting platform by Panamerica. My name is Sofia Gonzalez. I am part of the IWF communication team. I am already in Japan waiting for our athletes to come. They are meant to come during this week and next week. They will follow all the COVID procedures that we are following at the minute. For us, we followed a 14 days quarantine that will end on the 22nd of July, 2 days before the first day that our lifters will step on the weightlifting platform, on the Olympic weightlifting platform. We are taking PCR tests nearly every day. The athletes are going to do the same. They will be asked to follow their activity plan, which is very strict. They will do their session, and as I'm sure that you know, they will leave the country just after their session. So they won't be for all the Olympic period. We are here. Our last news were that the Japanese government declared the state of emergency. That's made everything a little bit more strict, but all the measures are being taken for these Olympic Games to finally happen. We've been waiting for them for long enough. We are ready to see our lifters on the Olympic Games. Bye bye from Tokyo.
Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of the Weightlifting Platform, brought to you by the Pan American Weightlifting Federation. You like it? You see it? Bookmark it on YouTube, or you could like the IWF on Facebook, or tweet out to the IWF, IWFNET on Twitter. I'm your host, Richard Mason. Good lifting.